your favourite authors when you were a child? Did you like being whisked away in your imagination to the mystical world of Narnia? Were you captivated by the tiger who came to tea, enchanted by Peter Rabbit and his friends, enthralled by the adventures of the famous five?
Today on Songs of Praise, the wonderful world of children's stories. Commemorating the great writer C.S. Lewis on the 50th anniversary of his death.
Plus author Michael Morpurgo, some favourite hymns and a performance from our senior school choir of the year.
Oh, this is a book I loved when I was a kid. Enid Blyton's The Secret Seven. Well, actually, I liked all of her books, but The Secret Seven were particular favourites because one of them was a girl called Pam, and of course she was just like me. But you know, being a bit of an animal lover, I can also remember a poem I especially liked then called Cats Sleep Anywhere, written by Eleanor Farjeon, who in fact wrote a lot of children's books, but perhaps is best known for writing the words of our first hymn today. Once upon a time, children's literature didn't really exist. It's difficult to imagine in a place like this. Forget the Gruffalo and the Very Hungry Caterpillar. The first books for children were written to promote religious doctrine, good manners and good morals, not simply to entertain. Authors like John Bunyan and Isaac Watts wanted to save children's souls rather than to fire their imaginations. The publisher John Newbery is often called the father of children's literature. Back in 1781, he published a collection of nursery rhymes about Mother Goose. Less than a century later, Alice began her adventures in Wonderland, and the golden age of children's literature began. From the White Rabbit and the Cheshire Cat to more modern characters like Fantastic Mr. Fox and Babe the Sheep Pig, animal characters have always been popular.
I like animal stories because some make me laugh. I like some animal stories because sometimes they help me and my sisters go to sleep.
My favourite story is Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. I like Aslan because he's quite cool because when he dies he also regenerates again.
Well, this is about a dog who wants to do ballet.
I like reading animal stories, and when I grow up I want to be a vet.
Of course, hymns and songs about animals have always been popular with children too, and our next hymn is a real favourite. The author Clive Staples Lewis, best known as C.S. Lewis, was born in Belfast in 1898. His 7 Chronicles of Narnia are his most famous books, yet they were his only works for children. After serving in the First World War, Lewis studied at Oxford University and then became a Fellow in English Literature at Magdalen College. He had a suite of rooms here in the so-called New Building, which actually dates back to 1735. And it was here that he first began to believe in God. By 1931, C.S. Lewis was a committed Christian, and he worshipped here at Holy Trinity Church at Headington Quarry on the outskirts of Oxford for more than 30 years. Now, this year marks the 50th anniversary of his death, and he's buried just over there. Not far from Holy Trinity Church is the Kilns, where Lewis lived until 1963, and in its extensive grounds are woodlands and this beautiful lake. It's not hard to see where he got his inspiration for the Chronicles of Narnia.
Lewis saw writing fiction as a way of, in effect, opening up Christianity to a generation of people who otherwise might not have access to it at all. Narnia is both a great story, but a story that can be read at different levels. It's a story about children and a lion at one level, and at a deeper level it's about what's life all about. It's about Aslan, the great lion, as a figure of Christ. It's really about discovering not just the meaning of a story, but the meaning of life. And of course, Lewis wants his readers to know he made that discovery himself.
Who is Aslan? Asked Susan. Aslan, said Mr. Beaver. Why, don't you know? He's the king. He's the lord of the whole wood, but not often here.
I think it's a great way to tell people about God through fantasy story, because it makes people want to read it and then gets people engaged.
The reason why I love C.S. Lewis is because a lot of the books I read are about good versus evil, so it's the Narnians versus the White Witch and her army. Once you've read it, you understand what his metaphor is, Aslan being God and helping the children win the battle.
Wrong will be right when Aslan comes in sight. At the sound of his roar, sorrows will be no more. When he bares his teeth, winter meets its death, and when he shakes his mane, we shall spring again.
Lewis saw writing fiction as a way of, in effect, opening up Christianity to a generation of people who otherwise might not have access to it at all.